Hello, everyone. Welcome back to TARTLE. We're doing some early morning filming, watching the sunrise with a nice cup of mushroom coffee.
Yes, must be nice.
I was just about to say that.
Alex likes my shirt.
Yeah, it's all that. It's just there's so much, as I was saying, baked into your T-shirt. I was crying. I was laughing so hard.
I think it was culturally relevant.
It was extremely relevant.
Because you can use it in a positive or negative. That depends on. It's just a mirror of the reflection of who you are when you look at the statement.
Yeah, and or like, yeah, you saying it or the person receiving it.
Right. Yes.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Because it can be like must be nice, you know, to na.
Yeah, or it's
and
like,
then be
oh,
like,
that must
and then
be nice.
jealous or envious,
Yeah.
or you can be must be nice, like in a positive way, like you go.
Yeah, it's one of those statements that sits right in the center.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
I guess if it'd be funny from the context of someone like English second language, where you say like must be nice, or like if anyone was learning something contextual from like a group or a society, like
Right.
from a cultural standpoint,
They wouldn't understand.
they wouldn't understand it at all.
They would think you're being like it wouldn't because I would imagine the English language sarcasm would be hard to understand.
So hard to understand.
Yeah,
And so that's
exactly.
why I find it so comical. Like there's so much baked into, that must be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Speaking of baked in,
And speaking of more baked in,
we
I was
have
about-
mushrooms in
yeah,
our
we
coffee.
got mushrooms in here.
The legal kind.
And we're going to talk about food.
So there was a one Vox article on why food resources economic specialists are recommending big data to boost the food industry.
Yeah, food's interesting, right? So they touched on a lot of things. Like there's so many restaurants out there.
Yes.
And, restaurants don't have to be like Gordon Ramsay or Michelin 3-star.
Right.
You can run a very profitable restaurant as long as you have your process down packed. And I think the most pertinent example, and I don't know why this is just becoming obvious, obvious to anybody that's in the food industry, but look at what Domino's did.
Oh yeah, they turned themselves around.
So Domino's with the pizza tracker,
Yes.
and literally analyzing every part of the process, more so, I think, than McDonald's. I think they looked at what McDonald's did and then improved upon it with technology and data. But being able to track the process, the time, who's touching it, I'm talking start to finish, understanding that whole supply chain and the manufacturing of the pizza. They moved it to a manufacturing process.
Yes.
So rather than looking at it as like food from the artistic standpoint, let's look at it from manufacturing. How can we create the least amount of mistakes with the least amount of waste and get it out as quick as possible? Because they understand that is baked into their revenue models.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. So if we can increase our slice of the pie for how much we're, gathering on revenue, then let's do that by using the analytics through these big data models that we have, all this processing power in the cloud to come back and be like, this is actually how we should be making the pizzas.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And just to benefit to us, because it is in the cloud, you can track it on your cell phone.
Well, and not only, it was brilliant because not only is it helping user experience, and it's giving excellent customer service to something that you wouldn't expect it in kind of a fast food generic. But I think the number one and most important thing that people don't realize when they're looking at data, whatever industry it in, is how it can hold the employees accountable.
That's a good part because accountability, we're not trying to make people robots, right? But holding someone accountable to a process so they don't like go outside of it.
Yes.
It saves them, the individual, on liability, and it saves the company on costs and liability at the same time. And even for Walmart, you don't think of them as food, but they have those huge marketplaces. Their number one selling product is bananas.
Yes.
Bananas. It's the number one selling thing at Walmart. But what you have to measure is the turnover of that inventory. Food goes bad.
Yes.
You can't serve stuff that's just, beat to hell, nasty, covered in mold, stagnant, dying, rotting on the shelf, right? So you have to look at your logistics and supply chain, the data from them, how quickly can you get that food to you, what the shelf life is, right? And then after that, can we sell it in an appropriate amount of time before we have to actually can this thing and we made absolutely no gain on it.
Yeah, and I think that's where IoT devices will play. Once they, some places are experimenting with having them on the shelf, and then it knows exactly, 4 of these were bought in the hour.
Correct.
And at September 17, we always sell 12 of them.
Yeah.
So we need to, and then it automatically, through blockchain can order that product and have it, out of 5 or 7 years of data, we know, it can get that granular.
It does get that granular, but there's also some issues with that, with the big data and like the food. So, and stocking shelves. Some time ago, I worked at Bed Bath & Beyond. It was one of my earlier retail jobs.
Did you have a nice comforter?
I always had nice comforters. Very plush.
That's very important. People don't realize how
sleep is so important.
How we're learning that with our Whoop, but people don't. One thing I've learned is making and I've shared this before on my other podcast, is making sure your room is nice and not like some people put their computer in their room.
No, I've removed all that.
All screens, and that you should make your room be really nice. I'm redoing my room right now.
I go into my room solely to sleep.
Yes. Yeah.
Nothing else happens in there.
Yes. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Damn. Put myself in a corner in that one. No.
You are getting married, so once you start the married life,
shame on me.
Nothing happens but sleep.
Yeah, nothing but sleep will happen for sure. But the point is that's solely what you do. Now, but when we're looking at when I'm getting back to Bed Bath & Beyond, is that we would track those things. How much would people buy in a specific day?
Right.
And then that would immediately go into the fulfillment system, and they would be ordering more product. And then what you realize is that you'd have, 500 comforters because they sold last year at this time, but you only sold 20. Yeah. So now you got an issue with stocking on your shelves. And it's not that the trucks don't show up in time. Shipping and handling is actually quite quick.
Yes.
Freight can show up next day.
Yes.
It's amazing, all these distribution centers. But the problem is that the system was only observing it, but it was never focusing on the customer actually itself. It never talked to the customer. So now the food industry has realized that, okay, we can observe what's going on from our stance with our power, but we also need to understand the behaviors and preferences of the customer itself.
Yes.
The person who's actually doing the purchasing.
I love that. Yeah.
Because we don't know that, the food's still going to sit there.
Yeah.
If it isn't the right price and we're not buying, the right type of cabbage, I don't know how many people eat cabbage, I eat it every day, then we shouldn't have it on the shelf.
Right.
If there's one buyer out of 10,000, let's not order that.
Well, I think it's looking at short-term data compared to looking at long-term data and then looking at seasons.
Yeah. And the real-time data too, I don't want to order in very heavy meals, warming comfort food during the hotter months.
Yes.
Or maybe it's something you always purchase in colder climates, but it wouldn't make sense here, like in New Mexico.
Yes. Yeah.
You need to find the balance. You have to strike that balance with your data analytics of finding real time what's going on with preferential choices of a person, because that's very variable. But the things that aren't so variable is the food you order.
Yes.
You can say, I want to buy this, I don't want to buy it, or I can buy more.
Well, it's like yesterday I went to Costco, and because of this lockdown, and then you can only have 25% capacity in Costco. So there's a long line. And then I went in there, and automatically my mind shifted to, okay, I had to wait in line for like 20 minutes to get in here. I need, and I got in this, and I'm like, no, I'm single. It's me by myself. Hey, ladies. Sorry, I had to do
Shout
that.
out.
Must be nice.
Yeah, must be nice.
And so, and so I automatically wanted to buy more, but then I had to stop myself and say, one person can't eat 86 apples,
Yeah, no.
in
I always
2 weeks. Yeah.
I cook with onions as a base in most of my meals.
Right.
And I was going to Costco. I'm like, look at this size of that sack of onions. And I'm like, I got to get my hands on that, right? And then I got a big bag of onions, and I'm like, I got to double down on how many onions I'm eating because I bought way
It makes
too much.
you do that. Yeah, you should see my fridge. It's like super packed because I did that. I was like, well, let me go ahead and get this. Let me go ahead and get that. Let me get some extra hummus. Hummus lasts me a long time, and I got 2 Costco hummuses.
Those are huge. Those are huge. That's the Oasis hummus. Those are big boys. I know exactly what they are.
Yeah. It's delicious.
But it's funny how, from the perspective of a person, individual, if you make them wait, it's almost like the idea of scarcity becomes worse and worse. We're so used to instant gratification.
Yes.
And so we're worried, well, what if I have to wait again? I don't want to have to come back and do that because I'm lazy.
Yes.
And it annoys me, this process.
Yes.
So I'm going to double down right now.
Yep. And that's what's happening. It is nice at the 25% occupancy, though. No one's in the aisles.
Yeah, it must be nice.
What was crazy, so I looked at their capacity chart when I walked in because I wanted to see. So it was 400.
That's it in a huge building?
Yeah, in a huge building. And so they could only have 25%. So they could only, and they were keeping track of it with the little trackers, how many people were walking in when they showed their card.
Right.
So they could only have 100 people in that huge building.
Wow.
So it's like a ghost town.
And like 30 of those are already employees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what's interesting about Costco is Costco does a lot of food too.
Yes.
And they store a lot of stuff on the shelves. So as a business for your analytics, you also are going to have to analyze, well, how much of my stuff are preserved, very long shelf life items. And you got to strike that balance also.
Yeah, because they have a ton of produce.
Yeah. And if you were really going to use big data.
Right.
And you want to be
produce.
Yeah,
That's how I said it.
Yeah. Produce.
I separated with a hyphen. Produce. That's the way I said it. I paused between.
Well, then what's a non-deuce or an anti-deuce?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why is the pro in front of it?
I don't. Yeah, exactly.
It's like a forward-looking
professionally deuced.
Must be nice.
Oh yeah, must be nice. That's funny. Okay, now that I'm crying. So you've heard about the classic Vlasic pickle story from Walmart, right?
No, man. I don't buy those because they put food coloring in them.
Well, I know that, but this is food distribution and data.
Okay, tell me.
So the buyers in Walmart, this happened a few years ago. The buyers in Walmart decided, the big jars of Vlasic, the big dill pickles.
Yeah, it's like who in their right mind is buying that?
Yeah. So, but they started selling them
fridge.
like crazy. So they were like, so they went to Vlasic and said, "We'll double down on our order of these big jars, but we want to get them to $3.28. Can you get them three?" So they're running math, trying to figure it out. This is like margins, pennies. Everybody's going back and forth. They spent like a month trying to come up. They finally got it to like $3.29 or something. For that, that's a ton of cucumbers. What they didn't realize was that could the farmers keep up with the amount, and they couldn't. So everybody had cut deals. So Walmart in their legal clauses had, if you can't give us the supply, then we're out.
And
so that's what happened. Yeah, so
now the farmers are screwed. So they were on a nice steady pace,
Yes.
and because Walmart wanted to pinch pennies through the data analytics, you have to be careful when you're analyzing data. It's not just about you.
Yes.
There are systemic effects to the choices you make, right?
That's what I wanted you to hit. Yeah,
and this happens a lot with Walmart. So even not to get too far off track, but if you look at Walmart and how they look at their labor, I know this actually quite intimately. I understand this process. Management only does the analysis. That's all they do. So if the higher management comes down, they're like looking at all their individual stores, like they're out in the Midwest, and they're just pumping emails over to the store managers all day long saying, you're not hitting these numbers. You have way too much turnover of your people, right? People are quitting more than you can actually hire them. You need to fix this. And the guys were like, how am I supposed to fix it? They're human beings, right? And you're asking me to push these numbers that systemically are not physically possible. So the pickle problem is currently happening with their human labor.
Yes.
And Walmart's the largest employer in the United States.
Yes, people don't realize that.
They don't get that, right? It gives, even though you might not like Walmart, it's giving people a lot of opportunity.
Well, I think in the lower income brackets, it's huge.
Yeah.
So that's what, and I love it just because the simple fact is, a lot of people don't realize this. Everybody craps on Walmart all the time, but
they take produces.
Yes. They take produces on them.
Producing on Walmart.
But they also sell the most organic food, and they will change.
Yeah.
They will adapt to the market. So the more organic you buy, then the more they're going to, they just want to have.
Walmart's very responsive to people voting with their dollar.
Yes.
And so from a preference standpoint, as they're analyzing, they're going to analyze the crap out of anything, another produce.
Right. It's the same with dog food. They bumped up their game on dog food because they know people are trying to be a little bit more healthy with the dog food. So I don't say necessarily care. I think they do, but they're just this super large corporation that if we purchase, they're going to go off of what we purchase.
Right. And that's exactly correct. And so if we just circle back around then, if the restaurant industry is at 899 billion or whatever the projection is for the size of it, it's not going to be that hard for you to become a leader in the restaurant industry, even if you have like junk chains. I wonder how some chains survive just driving around. I'm like, how are these people in business? It's the fact that they've nailed the processes.
Yes.
They've nailed down their data, their suppliers, all that stuff. And that's what makes them successful. And you wonder why, wow, that was such a good, one-off, restaurant, very niche. Like, how did they fail? Well, they failed because they're good at making food, but they suck with the manufacturing process.
Yes. Yeah.
They're bad with their data. They're bad at collecting information from their customers. They only know how to please and then create art. There's a reason why art doesn't sell. Art has a slow inventory turnover too, right?
Yes.
And you have to look at that, but that doesn't mean you can't serve quality in the restaurant business, but do it efficiently.
So speaking of quality, if a restaurant chain wanted to buy data from TARTLE, how would they do that?
That'd be really easy. So they would sign up as a buyer on TARTLE. They go to tartle.co. They get themselves started. They put in their initial profile, and then they would say, okay, I want a population of people in my general area, and I want to know what their preferences are for buying, what their incomes are, things that they're allergic to, things that they want. And I also can survey those people, get their data on, other restaurants they are going to. So from a competitive standpoint, I can do a little bit of like espionage.
Yes.
By understanding behaviors and the wants and how they actually interact with other businesses that are my competitors.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful part. Whenever you start getting real specific with your data and you go directly to the customer, then when you get that, data back, now you can use that in your marketing to somebody that's responsive to your restaurant chain.
Most definitely in the marketing. And you can also realize, I really shouldn't be stocking the stuff, or this is not something I need to be carrying.
Right. You could ask somebody that. Have you gone to this restaurant? Yes or no? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, then would you buy that? Did you order this, or this? These are our four specialty dishes, or which would you prefer?
Yeah.
If you had a new menu, and then you're going to get simple survey. You're going to get it back directly from them in what you should do or not do. And I would imagine you'd
want a straightforward answer like that, right? And it's literally as simple as going on to TARTLE very quickly, finding the data you want, and going to purchase it from the appropriate parties. This is crucial information to the longevity of your business. Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's also an R&D expense.
Yes.
Hello, taxes. Nobody wants to pay them, and it's funny that restaurants have only now, and like it's stated in here, begun to find this information as crucial. Information is always crucial. It has always been crucial. And just because we call it data doesn't mean it's any different than information. It's just a better availability of it.
Mm-hmm.
You were getting less of it before, and now you can get more. You need to make those transitions. You got to understand that if you don't have the details, how are you supposed to operate? How can anybody command anything if they have no communication?
Yes.
Gordon Ramsay cannot manage his restaurants if there's no communication between the front and the back.
Yes.
And how are you supposed to manage the health of the restaurant in general if there's no communication between the customer and the business? Right? Or, and then the customer and the farmer. Ask the farmer and ask the customer at the same time. Look at the balance from both sides. Be holistic with your data and how you analyze it.
I love that. And people can sign up at tartle.co.
.co. .co. TARTLE.co. Thanks, everybody.